Well, good morning, everybody. All right, here's the plan for today's forecast video. After we watch one system exit, we've got big snows coming from the northern plains. Flooding rains are going to happen in parts of the mid-south. A chance at getting some rain and even some snow into the very driest parts of the southern plains, while this active pattern that's split in the middle of the Pacific continues to hit the west coast. So all of that we're going to have to talk about first. Secondly, I have some new information on frost depth that I want to share with you. We got a good temperature pattern discussion going on for the rest of April at the end of this, and then I'm going to show you, to finish this up, some new NDVI data across some of the drought-stricken areas in South America. So all that's ahead of us, so let's get started here. First animation you're watching is just the current system that's leaving parts of the eastern United States and the Midwest here, and you can just see some of the rain that's moving into the northeast, but a pretty powerful frontal boundary still draped all the way down here towards Texas. And this is going to be something we're going to see a lot of. There are likely going to be multiple times where fronts stall across parts of the Ohio Valley down to eastern Texas in the next 7 to 10 days, delivering some incredibly heavy rainfall. While all that's taking shape, and we're going to look at the severe weather threat to the southeast here in just a moment, look at the west. Our next system is starting to come in here, and as it does so, this is going to be a much slower progression of a system. You'll see in a few minutes, this one and the one following it, because of the behavior of the North Pacific Ocean. All right, right now, if we look at the latest update on the storm reports, we're at over 600 reports yesterday. A lot of wind north and a lot of hail to the south. We did have 3 tornadoes that were reported, one in Michigan, one in Tennessee, and one in Missouri. But if you just kind of have a look here, this was quite a bit of severe weather activity. Again, it's pretty far to the east, which has been an ongoing discussion we've been having. I did want to show you just kind of the last 3 days of hail. I remember, map this. It's on agweather.com. You can go check it out there. But if you want to zoom in farther to the south, you can really see some of the hail streaks here. We were looking at some places picking up between golf ball and baseball size hail just in this past weekend. Now, some of these storms did get back in Oklahoma and Texas, which is critical. But we need to continue to watch that dry line press its way back toward almost here to the high plains, getting up over the Caprock. I mean, I need this thing back as far as we can possibly get it in order to do better at returning some moisture into this area. So I just want to give you a quick look at that hail. To the north, we're looking at a different type of frozen water, and that would be snow. Just have a look at the weekend's snowfall totals here. And some of this that came into parts of Wisconsin and northern, or the UP, of Michigan, was in the form of ice. And I have a close friend up there. Her name's Jenny Black, and she's owns a resort up in the north woods of Wisconsin, a little town called Hazelhurst. It is my favorite place on the face of the earth. That is not a real bear, just to be clear. That toy's been there since I was born. It's just a sculpture, but that's a real dog. Anyway, this is just some of the ice damage. She took a picture for me yesterday to show what it was looking like. And they picked up anywhere between 1/4 and 3/10 of an inch of ice in this particular area. But throughout parts of the UP Michigan and then the northern part of lower Michigan, the ice accumulation was much greater. And you can see this morning where we do have the power outages here. Parts of Michigan still well over 250,000 people without power. Wisconsin, about 55,000. Indiana, after the severe weather high wind event rolled through, about over 50,000. Kentucky with 11, and Louisiana with 10,000. What's going on in Louisiana is we still have strong storms rolling through that area. And if you just kind of have a quick look at where the live lightning strikes are early this morning, you can see where that frontal boundary kind of extends. And my concern is that this frontal boundary may linger in this area for a while, and we're going to build high pressure off the southeast, which pumps Gulf moisture into that boundary, which is why in the next few moments when I show you the 10-day precip totals, you're going to see some huge numbers in this particular area, which is going to be quite problematic for spring field work and planting in this region. But I wanted to give you a glimpse at what happened yesterday down here, because there's the front ripping off the severe storms. I get all the way up into Indiana. But a lot of deep convection in the southeast, including Florida, which has been one of our driest states when you look back over the last, not just 30 days, but 60 days. So to see some deeper convection there was good. We needed to see storms down here. There's the front, though. This is kind of neat to look at. This small, thin line of clouds here is where the frontal boundary was into parts of Texas. And I noticed there was another boundary here, which I wondered, I haven't had a lot of time to look at, if that's the extension of the sea breeze. And you can see some deeper storms popping off of this. But right before the sun sets, we can still see quite a bit of haze in the atmosphere as the sun angle gets much more oblique, scattering off the top of these clouds. So just something to continue to monitor in this area as we go forward. So this morning, winter storm watches north, severe thunderstorm watches here. This is all red flag warning. We can see throughout the Rockies winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings, also along the Sierra Nevada, but the wind is going to be this other big story going forward. Into the northeast as the rain pushes in here, what we've got here is some dense fog and a winter weather advisory for northern Maine. But I want to show you this progression of severe weather. So this is today's threat, another large area of enhanced risk as that front slowly slides into the southeast. But this extends all the way up, through the mid-Atlantic into New Jersey, even closer to New York City. Tomorrow, it's a reset, right? The next system comes out. There'll be big snows to the north, a large area under slight risk, and this is good. Look how far back, to the west we're beginning to get the edge of these risk areas. And then by the time we get to Wednesday, it looks very similar to the forecast on Sunday, where we've opened up just a large corridor where the Storm Prediction Center is already at an enhanced risk of severe storms, okay? On top of all of that, just here through the beginning of this week, this is our forecast of wind gusts put out by the high-res NAM model, maximum cumulative wind gusts. And I only overlay numbers where we're above 50 miles an hour in the projections. So you can see coming off of Colorado's, and New Mexico's highest elevations here into the high plains, very strong winds, but they extend all the way into parts of the mid-south, midwest, as this next system comes across the central part of the country. And this is really by midday Wednesday before it's reached its maturity and severe weather threat into the midsection of the country. But the other side of this is where it's putting down its heaviest rainfall. Now, there's a couple things we need to take note of here. Yes, your eye is going to be drawn to this area where the WPC has a large region where we're talking about 6 to 10 inches of rainfall possible. Okay, but this versus this, the moisture coming in here, which is desperately needed. How much of this gets into the southeast? Remember, we've been monitoring a drier corridor in through here. And you can see more coming in to the Pacific Northwest and into California, Sierra Nevada mountains, including more snow that's going to run the whole length of the Rocky Mountains out of this. In fact, I want to show you the snow. This is the newest 7-day snowfall forecast from the European model. This is the 0Z run. Now, in a moment, I'm going to show you several model runs of the snowfall forecast, and you will see significant differences here and here between the models. They're a bit more consistent through California, as you can see, maybe picking up another 30, 40 inches in parts of the Sierra Nevada. And they're a bit more consistent here in the northern Rockies. But these two areas, you're going to see some model differences, and we're going to talk through those in a few moments. Now, I'm just thinking about why. What's been going on in March? March saw something that the rest of winter didn't give us, and a lot of that was right here. That is our subtropical jet. Now, most of this La Nina winter we just finished didn't have it. But if you look in the month of March, so from the 1st all the way to Friday, we had that come back, and we had these jet extensions at times. In other words, the Pacific Ocean got moving, and it did move one critical piece away from the United States. I'm going to show you that. So if this is the average wind, the composite mean, this is the anomaly. And this is what I'm talking about right there. That is the Pacific Ridge. And the marches that are terrible are when the Pacific Ridge sits over the West Coast. You say, well, why? Well, that would make the West Coast very dry in March, which they need March moisture. That would then drive huge cold air outbreaks all the way through the northern plains into the east. But it didn't. It was way over here. And as a result, we saw a March that was mostly mild and finally broke the curse of this winter in terms of returning flow to places that needed it. Now, I'll show you the March stats in a few moments because we're not quite done yet. But here's the other high-pressure cell we have to look at. That's the one that earlier in the month brought rains to Arizona. That's the high-pressure cell that drove moisture that came right along the Red River Valley. Remember that event? I mean, it's been a while, but it's what did it. So we're looking at all of that, and we're still trying to find where is the biggest disturbance in the Pacific Ocean. And I'm going to go back to this pattern, this big wave-breaking event here. That's this large ridge crashing through parts of Alaska. It's actually pulling flow back in this direction from the east to the west while this cutoff low lives to the south of it. And while it slowly marches across the Pacific and ends up building itself into what appears to be an omega block, we just get flow, and we're going to deal with this. Now, I get criticized about why I don't talk much about the Atlantic, and in this particular winter, I have found that the Atlantic is just more in a response mode to the Pacific. Now, there are some winters where the North Atlantic Oscillation or the Arctic Oscillation, all of those factors in the Atlantic are dominant drivers to what happens in the eastern half of the United States. But it's pretty bunched up here, okay, across the Atlantic. But they do have, look at this subtropical component of the jet here. So, but these videos are focused on the U.S., so I'm really going to see what's upstream and how it's going to influence things. So this is how it looks. This is our big wave break right there. There's the cutoff low to the south, and you're going to watch this low respond to the flow coming around this ridge by moving in that direction, which is unique. Now, why is that important? It lets this guy linger and go slowly through the atmosphere. So watch. This is later today. Getting into tomorrow. See that low just curling back here? The wave broke over the top of it. So all the way through Wednesday, we just continue to have a slow-moving, deeper trough. One piece of it exits early into the northern plains. You'll see that in a minute. The second piece comes out later and in the southern plains, right there. When? Thursday, Friday. And so here's that omega look to the pattern, but it's not fully blocked anymore. And what happens is out ahead of this, we get a big ridge, which is why late in the week we're watching for severe weather and an area right in through here that's going to flood a lot. But the depth of that trough could mean snow. I'm talking about this one coming out of Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico. Got to talk about that guy. Now, once we get past this weekend, this is now Monday and Tuesday of next week, that's where the discussion starts to come in with how much cold air comes racing in behind this deeper trough. And does the pattern end up by the 9th, 10th, 11th, giving us a ridge that kind of sits on the high plains here, boring dry flow behind this. That's where we seem to be going as we approach mid-April. But that is a cold signal east and a more mild signal to the west. All right. So let's get into it. This is the newest high-res NAM. Starting us off about 6 a.m., we watch one system leave east. This will all be active and strong thunderstorms here through the afternoon, and into the evening, they're going to stretch all the way up and down the coast. Meanwhile, our next system by 9 o'clock tonight is onshore. It then emerges. Remember, there's two waves. Here's wave number 2. Here's lead wave number 1. So one comes out, 2 digs in behind it. Ready? So this is 8 a.m. tomorrow morning on Tuesday. Look at the snow coming out of Montana into the Dakotas, although most of South Dakota will see rain out of this. We see snow in northern Minnesota, very cold rain right in through this area, and snow hitting some of those areas that just got ice by Tuesday night. By Wednesday morning, we're going to see stronger storms start to emerge here, okay, and some wetter weather getting into Wisconsin. And then the next low, it's lingering. It's just sitting right here, ready to come out and run on this boundary. See the boundary that's stuck in through there? Now, to see that, we've got to flip models. GFS left, European right. So we've seen one system exit. There it is. There goes the first wave out. So when are we in time? This is 1 a.m. Wednesday, 7 a.m. Wednesday, 1 p.m. So again, watch for the risk of the stronger storms in this area. Heavy snows to the north. This is in the evening hours on Wednesday. And then the next system, here it comes. This is Thursday, April 3rd. It's starting to emerge right down here in New Mexico. So this is the one that we're going to watch carefully to deliver some rain and possibly some snow here while it rides this boundary, which is already going to be experiencing flooding rains, by Thursday. So here we are. This is Thursday. There it is. Comes out. See it? Right there. By Friday, GFS is a little later, but doesn't matter. They're both there. That could be some very big snow for parts of New Mexico, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska. So we've got to watch this. This is this Saturday afternoon and heavy rains here. That low then leaves, and behind it, we now get the full effect of the atmosphere's big omega looping pattern dry things out as we get out there toward the 8th and 9th. So do you notice that after that? I mean, really after the system leaves, there's 4 or 5 days of just not a whole lot happening across the U.S. as one system exits the northeast, and then just the pattern just plops. So here are the maps I wanted to share you. Over the next 7 days, these maps are going to be a bit maddening there to me. That is the 10-day ECMWF. That's the AI. Now, if you look at the operational run, we got 1 to 2 inches of rain coming here, 5 to 10 inches coming in through here. AI, same thing here, but half of the moisture there that the previous run had. And then the GFS has got heavy rains in the next 10 days here, including snow, but then just misses this whole area while soaking here. I mean, I pick your spot, right? All right, I'll pick where I live. I live right here. That's mine. I put a dot on my house. You know that. So 3.61 inches is what I'm expecting from the European. I'm expecting 3.04 from the AIFS. From the GFS, 0.39. Look at your spot. Ready? Let's do it again. Find it. AI, GFS, and I do have one more. It's the NBM, the National Blend of Models. That is going to be a tough forecast. This is a hole that's got to get filled in. We need to fill in more up here, and this absolutely must happen to help this region out. This is going to be extremely problematic. All right, probabilities. That's the chance at over an inch in the next 10 days. Here's the chance at 2 inches. Oh, just got the new model run in. Let's go back to the previous because it's going to take a while to show up. That is the chance of 2 inches. Here's the chance at 4. So from the northeast corner of Texas through southwest Ohio, a large area that has a 90% chance of 4 inches of total moisture. That is what a stalled out frontal boundary does. Why is it stalled? Because there's going to be high pressure here. And that's just going to push the flow around. And boundaries are going to linger. Why? Because lows keep going up like this and leaving their fronts. One comes down here and leaves its front. And so that is why we hit that area so hard. In fact, let's go up again, 8 inches. There's a 50% chance of 8 inches of rainfall here. This is going to be extremely problematic because they've planted crop here. On the drier side of this, let's go who's under a ½ inch. This is what I'm most excited about seeing. This has been eroded away. And we need to see that eroded away. We're drier in the southwest, drier in California's Central Valley, although good moisture into the Sierra Nevada, drier throughout much of the Canadian prairie in this pattern. Why this is so important is because this is where we've been for the last 30 days. We are talking about filling in part of this hole with a big question mark on this one. This will be eliminated. A lot of this will be eliminated. And we have snow coming for this area. So this is the lone holdout for where I've got to get moisture into place that the models are kind of battling over, okay? And if you want to see this in terms of statistics, just see how dry parts of West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio have been lately. And it's amazing to think about this because in the previous month, it was a nonstop discussion about flooding, for example, in Virginia. So 1 month to the next, major swings. And if you take a look, that particular climate reporting district in Kansas, 128 out of 133. So we are expecting these holes to be filled in, but we've got a long way to go in some particular spots. On the snowy side of it, let me show you the season-to-date snowfall maps, because you know we're talking about big snows here. So this is where we are in terms of a departure, all right? And if we just take a look, that's the European. You've seen that one. There's the AI model. So European AI, big differences here in Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, northern Texas. Similar forecast for California, Sierra Nevada, and the northern Rockies. Here's the GFS. So again, let's look at it. ECMWF, AI, GFS. I wish I could put all of this on a single map, but there you go. GFS versus the Euro. Wow, this is huge. What's expected to happen down here between the two models? So that is our challenge right now, with figuring this out. Not just here, but here as well. Probability-wise, best chance at 3 inches over the next 10 days. So now we're just trying to get an idea. Are the models really going after the heavy snows there? Because we know we've got it here all the way into Quebec as well. We know that the Rockies are getting. We know what's expected here. But if I step this up to 6 inches, sorry, there's the new model run in again. Let's go back. Let me grab this for you. 10 days out, 6-inch probability. That's where things start to break down in this region. But heavy snows here. That's on the headwaters of the Mississippi. We need this. That's on the headwaters of the Red River, which drains into Lake Winnipeg, goes north. So let's watch this. This is needed moisture in this area. Okay. I've been asked, how are the models doing right now? Because you just saw how separate they are. I want to be clear. When I show you these skill scores, this is looking at the 5-day Northern Hemisphere 500 hectopascal Z anomaly. You're going, what in the world? This is the model's attempt at predicting this, not at the weather in your backyard. It's not a skill score for did it get it right where I am. It's did it understand this pattern and did it predict it 5 days ago? And they've been killing it. The models have been doing a great job. I don't know where that slide is, but they've been doing a great job with that. But this doesn't mean that they're going to hammer out every little detail about this spring forecast. The skill scores are good, but man, the differences in the models are maddening. So speaking of that, let's now get into week 2. Remember, by week 2, this is when the ridge shows up and the trough dives east. So as the trough dies east, it's only the southeast Florida that gets the rain out of this. We're much drier in the midsection of the country, which many will need this time frame to dry out. It's going to desperately be needed. But understand that with this is going to be coming in some colder air. We've already had our first taste of it. If you are anywhere between like Texas and Michigan, if you just take a look here, temperatures compared to yesterday are 20 degrees, 25, 30 degrees off of what they were. This is just the first of a series of cold fronts coming through. Our frost risk over the next 7 days looks something like this, according to the National Digital Forecast Database. So take a good look at that map. But what I'm going to link for you below is this. So we're trying to figure out this April temperature pattern, right? And when I was in Minnesota last week, there was a lot of talk about the depth of the frost line. Now, this comes from NOAA. They're mapping these stations where they have frost information, and they're giving you the soil frost depth in inches. And if we can we zoom in here easily? There we go. I still see several places in Minnesota, parts of North and South Dakota, Wisconsin, where the frost depth is, anywhere between a foot and some places almost 4 feet deep, given how cold this winter was. But those zeros tell you where they've taken the frost out. Now, remember, you can access historical frost information in several different ways. I'm going to show you a new way. This is, again, from NOAA's maps. And what's nice about this, again, I will link this as well, is you can zoom in on this map. I don't know, Ames jumped out at me. I'm just going to go to Ames. You can click on the dot. It'll tell you that last typical freeze date is April 24. If you're curious, you can also come here to my website, agweather.com. Just type in Ames or whatever town you want. And when you click on it, it'll even tell you down here, if you click on year-to-date year-to-date GDDs, click that radio button, there you go, that there is your distribution of frost dates in the last 40 plus years. And there's your first frost. So just remember, you have several ways to access this. But I'm going to give you these links because we have these big questions about, tons of questions about when this cold air is going to relent because it's been so mild. So here it is, today's highs. Okay, very warm east, much colder in the central U.S., cold west. That's tomorrow on Tuesday. Look at the jump, the rebound here as the Gulf opens back up. That's where we're going to be watching Wednesday into Thursday, our severe weather threat returning. But cold on the northern side where the snow comes in, cold west. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now remember, this is the second wave coming out here. That's the one that's got the snow chances in this area. And then we get into Sunday. Now, you know that after this, there's going to be a ridge that builds into the west. And if you look at my temperature matrix, take a look. Here's the next 5 days from 3 different models. Look at day 5 through 10. Mild, mild, mild in the west. The coldest air comes diving into the central U.S. This is when that big blocky pattern, it's not blocked, but block-like, starts to drive colder air in here. Now, this was maddening. That forecast, if I would have shown it to you, 5-10 days ago, this was all mild. This was all warm in this area. And this is why we're struggling with this April temperature pattern. We then noticed that all 3 models, by the time we get out there to, April 10th through the 15th, they're driving the cooler air east and out and going to probably replace it with a warm up again. And we have questions as to whether the models are getting this right. So here's where we get into the long range discussion. New CPC update on Friday, looking at the week 3, week 4 temperature outlook on the left and precip on the right. Now that is a pretty big swing away from where we have been, right? I mean, the temperatures, equal chances. That means cold air is going to come in here at times, mild south. Drier in California, wet. Look at this, wet in Texas and Oklahoma. Now why I say that is because the 1 month outlook looked like that when they released this back on March 20th. Now they're going to update this probably today. I think they'll do it later on today to give you their final April outlook. So we'll look forward to seeing that in tomorrow's video. But just take a look at that week 3, week 4. From here, I want to point out something. My struggle continues to be finding the dominant subseasonal signal. Again, MJO just lingering here, collapsing in null space on the extended forecast. So it's not giving me a strong signal to use for prediction. So as a result, this is what the models are doing. They're kind of putting a bit of I don't know if it's almost like a wave action in this pattern. There's the next week, and there's week 2. So there's the dryness in week 2. Now watch. By the time we get out to the 21st, we start to open this area back up for more storms again. So it's like the first week of April's crazy with severe weather. The second week is benign, and then the third week opens back up. And then as you get into the 4th week, it backs off again. And that's the way that the models are taking April. Week 1 on, week 2 off, week 3 on, week 4 off. So the temperatures are going to respond to that as well, even though the model isn't going to show you that. That's week 2. That makes a lot of sense. That does, right? The cooler air now. Why? Because we're building a big ridge here, and we're going to drive that colder air east. We've seen that. But then we would expect a big warm-up. It tries to come in for week 3. See it? It faded. But there's just this cool bias here and here in the model that I'm trying to understand if it's real or not, because we saw it whiff on this back in March. But then you'd expect toward the end of the month, cold comes back in. But by the time we get to May, we start to blow the doors open on spring warmth. And this is going to be an area to watch very carefully, because the hotter it gets here, the sooner the more evaporation will happen. And if we don't replenish the moisture here, it's going to be a problem. So I'll keep investigating this, but take a look at these other resources for frost depth and freeze dates, okay? To finish this out, a bit on South America. 3 maps across the top. Last 30 days of precip. This is where it's currently raining right now. And in the middle, you've got your 7-day. And some moisture finally made it into this area for the last couple of weeks. But I want to show you what that moisture did. So I got Tocantins, Goiás, Minas Gerais, and Bahia. And we talked back in a week and a half ago about the major drop in NDVI here, but those rains came through and greened some stuff up, and that's why it's returned back toward this average. That does not mean there's not still crop stress there, but it has returned that back closer to average. So if we look over the next couple of weeks, here's the next 7 days. Dry in Argentina, wet into southern and central Brazil, drier signal back here again. 10 days out, it looks like that. That's the next 10 days. But week 2 is attempting to take that front and return it back to this region again, while we're going drier in southern Brazil, which wouldn't be a problem. But over the next 2 weeks, take a look at the dryness that's coming into parts of Argentina down here. Maybe Rio Grande do Sul, Uruguay. That's a pretty strong signal we've seen showing up in the models we should continue to pay attention to. So with all that, you now know what we're going to be discussing all week, but I want to show you just one last thing to finish this up. What is really bothering me about this pattern is this. I think the MJO is in phase 4 and 5. And until I can really build a solid picture of what that might do to the North Pacific jet, this kind of behavior is limiting longer range predictability. So I just need some time. Got to think through this. But unfortunately, it feels like maybe for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be living just a step ahead of the forecast, relying more on the 7 to 10 day than pretending we can look out there longer range with a lot of skill. All right, that's all I got. You all have a safe and good start to your week, and I'll just pick this up again tomorrow. Thanks.